The Soul series has always had its 3 staple magic classes. Sorceries, for the toddlers who can't roll for their life yet still dominate me in PvP. Miracles, for the holy homies that really enjoy lightning, healing, and not much else. And pyromancies, which I'm still convinced are only there for the sole purpose of breaking the game. However, what if I told you there was a 4th subtype, exclusive to Dark Souls 2? Hexes. Now, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about when I say they are forgotten, because I guarantee most of you remember these. The good old times you had getting absolutely wrecked in PvP while you were just trying to progress through the Iron Keep Bridge. However, when it comes down to it, FromSoft has all but abandoned them. See, in Dark Souls 1 you had these 4 spells, which are all honestly pretty good additions to the game, though they are more imbalanced than a Ubisoft title at launch, and that's really saying something. Well, besides Dark Fog, but I don't even think its developers cared enough about it to make it half decent. Too much time was put into that banger item description. Abyss sorcery discovered by an imbecile sorcerer on the brink of madness. Create a cloud of dark fog. Although dark fog is, in theory, relatively close to humanity, it also happens to be a terrible poison for humans. Perhaps to reflect man's cruelty against his own. And to think we had the can be thrown at foes quite thrilling description 4 years later, but I digress. My point still stands that FromSoft made an attempt at this before going full in with DS2, which I appreciated very much. However, when the sequel came out and turned those few spells into a whole category, it honestly worked really well, bumping up the number to a nice 23 hexes. However, Miyazaki took this newfound equality and threw it out the window like one would throw a child, because the ultimate finale of the series gutted the entire category and went right back to having them be lumped in with sorceries. Now, this wouldn't have been all that bad if they had actually decided to bring over some of the old ones, but nah. The only one that made it over was freaking Dead Again, which is funny, but also objectively one of the worst ones you could have brought. Alright, I'm getting a little carried away here. Let me try this again. Hexes are kinda odd. Not only do they require you to level both intelligence and faith, but some of them will actually take away your souls. I wish I was kidding. That's the one reason why these are so hard to build around. It's basically just a border wall that's like 50 feet high. Could you imagine coming home from a hard day's work and spending those 5,000 hard-earned souls on some random spell just to cast it once and risk it for the biscuit? I'd rather go 5,000 on black, but hey, that's just my 2 cents. That sacrifice isn't the be-all end-all, because there is a huge trade-off that can pay off handsomely in terms of raw damage output. These hexes might not offer any fancy status effects or overtime attacks like some other spells, but they pack a punch with one solid hit of unrelenting power. Think of it like a surprise party, where instead of confetti, you're getting obliterated in a second. The invaders in my B-roll never see it coming. I can taste the panic on their stomach. Another thing I found in my testing was that one of the big dogs in the category, Climax, actually gives back the souls it takes if you kill the enemy it's targeted at. So it's a bit of a gamble, sure, but with the right timing and positioning, you can make those souls back. It's almost like you get a second chance, a redemption arc, something not even the likes of anime can rival. That's a joke, by the way. I'm not trying to piss off the neckbeards of Reddit. Wait, you're still here? Well, thank God, because that was just one spell, and we've got a pretty good amount of slots left. A grand total of 6 to be precise, and since Climax is kind of a beefy boy, big, strong, but limited, we need something to counteract that. Something more versatile. Something spammable. Something that won't leave us like your father after just a few casts. Enter Dark Orb. Now, Mr. Dark Orb is a pretty simple guy, but don't let that fool you because he gets results. He fires a big, black, voluptuous ball of darkness straight at the enemy's face, dealing moderate damage. Nothing too crazy, but here's the old Uno reverse. The 180 on the freeway. You get 30 casts of that bad boy, and if you're a baller like me and have 2 of them, then that total gets bumped up to 60. So he's of course getting added to our team I'm assembling like the Infinity Stones. Now, we already have some pretty good damagers, but they're both on complete opposite sides of the spectrum in terms of damage. So, to balance things out, we need something right in the middle, and we of course gotta bring on old Dark Bead. Now, unlike the previously mentioned spells, this one doesn't fire just 1, not 2, not even 6, but 7 projectiles at the same time. That means the damage is more spread out across them, making it seem weaker at first glance, but that's only if you're playing like a coward. See, if you get up close, right into that freaky, uncomfortably personal range, you can land every single bead at once, turning the spell into a magical shotgun blast straight into your pelvic area. We still only have projectile-based spells though, and this category actually has a lot of non-projectileable options that deserve some love. I don't really know what you call them. War crimes, but whatever the case, Life Drain Patch is next on the list. And no, it isn't a drug test, so don't worry. At first glance, it seems pretty straightforward, just a little ominous mist that drains the life of anyone dumb enough to stand in it. But where this really sets itself apart is scaling. Unlike most spells, Life Drain Patch actually scales based on how many souls you're carrying, with the damage maxing out when you hit 3,000. That means the more you hoard, the deadlier things get. Now that's really cool and all, but I've seen people claiming you can use it as a makeshift shield since you can hide behind the mist and stay out of sight. I have no idea if that actually works or not, but you best believe I'm going to test it out when we take these spells into PvP. If we're heading to PvP though, we most definitely need buffs, and that's where Numbness comes into play. I really like this one because unlike the usual soul style trade-offs where the spell like boost fire damage while shrinking your Johnson by 20%, this one is pretty unique with its punishment. See, using this will actually reduce incoming damage by a very specific 32%. Now, I don't know why Premsoft decided on that exact number, but hey, we don't question the guy who directed Dark Souls 2. Now, there is that trade-off I mentioned earlier because using Numbness basically gives you tunnel vision, making it harder to see what's going on around you. But honestly, that's a small price to pay when you're shrugging off almost a third of the damage coming your way. It's not like you need to see your opponent's attacks anyway. Plus, in a chaotic fight when spells are flying all over the place, sometimes not seeing the mess you're in can be a blessing in disguise. And I'm gonna be real here for a second, the name has Numb in the title, so you already know we had to cop it. If I'm gonna be getting the crap kicked out of me in PvP, I might as well think about a banger song. With that though, I think we've put together a pretty solid Hex build, mainly because we're completely out of slots. Of course, I'll still be swapping between a few different spells depending on the situation, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with the lineup. That said, there are a few honorable mentions I have to shout out before we get into some of that juicy PvP. First up, Resonant Soul. I'm pretty torn on this one because it basically operates like Dark Orb, it gets 30 uses, it's quick, it's reliable, but the key difference is that it deals way more damage. The catch? It takes away 500 souls per cast. Now, if you fancy yourself a math master like me, that adds up to 10,000 souls per cycle. That's a lot, but honestly, it doesn't even matter when the people you're killing are absolutely loaded. So yeah, I did find myself using it now and again. Another spell I'd like to give a quick shout out to is Repel. This one's pretty fun because it basically gives you 1.5 seconds of invincibility. I know, I told them they were overdoing it, but they insisted. They were like, oh, old boy C, no, we insist. You need to have this spell, man. It's plenty of time for you. Trust me though, 1.5 seconds is all the time in the world when you need to survive an absolute nuke of an attack or flex on someone mid-fight. Now, there are a bunch of other hexes I haven't covered, but it's not because they're bad or anything, it's just they're all kind of similar to what we already talked about. But hey, if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll be more than happy to do a full run of the game using only hexes, so please do that. Anyways, I've been spitting stats at you for like 6 minutes now, and I know you little monkey-brained individuals need to see the health bar get obliterated or else you're not entertained. So, I invaded this poor guy named Lince, who was just sitting there, AFK at the bonfire. Now, while we had a couple options here, I decided that I should hit him with the almighty power of our climax, which was an astounding 1,761 damage. I didn't stutter, you didn't mishear, we're easily one-shotting with this bad boy, and of course, as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. So I of course abused it like a dictator from a third world country. After those first couple shots though, the people actually started wising up to my diabolically evil plans and began to sidestep it, leaving me broke and homeless, though I don't have to be if you just join my channel. It's only $1 per month, and according to the one person doing it right now, it's a real bargain. Anyways, we're gonna go invade Salfecta now, and there's no better time than now to try out Life Drain Patch, and that's when I found out the hard way that it also damages you when you stand in it. But losing 90% of my health wasn't enough to break my American spirit, and besides, I'm not about to go to the hospital and lose everything I've ever owned because a certain company decided not to cover my heart transplant. We do have enemies helping us though, and with the power of friendship, we cornered them in a corridor and I just let it rip. Yeah, I think I like this one just a little bit. Going from like 100 to 0 in 3 seconds is pretty satisfying, and I guarantee you the guy just threw his keyboard at his monitor. Actually, I really hope he did. He needs to know what it feels like. And no, I'm not referring to my ranked teammates. Maybe. Anyways, that was the video on hexes that no one asked for. I honestly really made this with no purpose in mind, and I think it does kind of show. Like, I made the intro, thought it was cool, and made this abomination that might make me a whopping 67 cents if I get lucky. Please do subscribe though, because I have an absolute banger cooking up right now, and yeah, my pants are wet as well. We're in it together. Anyways, I gotta go now.